On this episode of Scammer Stories, Kelly Cahill had it all. A bombshell blonde with a thriving business in California. Her life spiraled downward after she decided to give online dating a try back in 2005.
I lost, it was 1.5 million total.
In the beginning, their lives seemed to be moving along together with a bright future ahead as a couple.
And I was so naive, so stupid, and so trusting.
It wasn't just her fortune on the line.
He threatened to kill me.
My name is April, and my mother lost all of her savings to a scammer. Now I'm sharing stories from other victims to raise awareness. Kelly's story starts way back before the term catfish was even coined. She thought she would play it safe and sign up for a paid dating site.
My friends are like, you need to get on there and date. And for the paid sites, it's at least they check to make sure somebody wasn't married and to make sure they weren't some kind of, felon or ex-con. I thought that's partly, where their money went. Sadly, I found out is not correct at all. So quite quickly, just like sociopaths do, it's like, well, he did everything right, said all the right things, and they study profiles. He certainly had a type as far as looks and financials. Pretty much every woman that he has conned, they all made over six figures. We all kind of look alike. And quite quickly, he had said he was in real estate, and he helped in the transaction of me buying a house. And again, I was so naive and so dumb because my ex-husband, handled all the finances, and I just trusted, everything. And so, I trusted him. He's like, well, we could do this like as a business deal. He's like, I can't put any money in because even though I've been divorced 2 years, we're still bifurcating. But, I can do a lot of this, fix and flip, which is kind of the house that I wanted to get. So I was like, okay, that's great. And I'm like, if things work out for us, great. If not, we'll just do this as a business venture. So I'm thinking, okay, like win-win. Well, it's like the day I was moving in to the house, like when there was no way to back out, I saw a side of him where I freaked out. Like he just turned on a dime, like his anger and his just this out of character from being Mr. Christian, nice guy. And it had to do with some movers and some things that were happening. And it's like he just like yelled at me and like went off on me. But it was like he was a totally different person. Like I'd never, ever seen that side. He never really raised his voice. And I was like, what the hell did I get myself into? And then because I was scared and naive and just, thought I was stuck, we kept on with the relationship, and things, they were fine. They were getting better. But it was like his true self. Technically it wasn't going to be his residence, but, slowly but surely he, started moving in and staying there and being there like all the time. And so he's like, well, we could refinance the house, take some money out and, put more into it. And so I'm like, okay, great. We were able to take out like 120,000 in equity, and, he got half, I got half. There was something wrong, but I didn't know what it was. I thought I was like depressed, and I wasn't putting my finger on it, but I kind of was backing away from him like a little bit. And unfortunately, at the end of that month, my stepfather unexpectedly passed away. And it was kind of a whirlwind. He was talking about getting married, and we were looking at like engagement rings, and I had still not met yet his four sons. And I kept asking, like, okay, I need to meet him. I need to meet him. And he just kept saying they were still really upset about the divorce. I'm like, okay, that just doesn't make sense. And there was so much stress. My stepmother was diagnosed with breast cancer. My dad had a stroke. I was still trying to deal with my mom, who had just lost, my stepdad, who was just an amazing human being and soul of 33 years, trying to help her cope. It was just a lot. And I just thought the one last straw, like he kept trying to push me to get, married or engaged. And I was like, if you don't want me to meet your sons, like, I'm not sure this is going to work. Like, that's weird. And so he just started getting really upset and angry. And that's kind of when I'm like, you know what? I think it's best, like, you move out, like, we're kind of done. And so I ended up moving everything of his out, paid for his storage. So after that, like, I had a big charity event, and I had kind of met somebody after that out, not really looking for anybody, but it was somebody I was like, I just kind of wanted to date. 3 weeks later, I had like my first just real date with this person. And the night of my date, I thought it was strange. He kept calling me. I finally had to tell him, look, I'm going on a date. Like, you can't come over. So after I came home and my date dropped me off, we were there for a little bit, but I just said, I just have a really uncomfortable feeling. I think it's probably best you leave. He's like, hey, look, I totally get it. I respect that. As we were like getting up to have him walk out, I hear the front door slam. And here comes Dave. He basically broke into my home, and the only thing that I remember is him yelling at me with this look like the devil. And he looked at me, he goes, you better put me on the fucking title, you cunt. And right then and there, I like the whole thing made sense. The only thing this guy wants is like money. Like, that was his whole intention. It scared me enough to where I thought, my word is my word. I don't want trouble from this guy. I've had enough stress this year. I will get him what his share would be at this time, and I'll just give it to him and be done with it. So I secured all the funding, and it was probably 2 days before I was going to give it to him. And I get a letter in the mail from his oldest son, basically telling me that he is contacting me along with his mother, letting me know that they found my credit card statement in his dad's gym bag. And in his words, along with a box of condoms and Astroglide. And we are very concerned for you. My dad is violent, that he basically beat me up to try to get to my mother. I need to let you know that my dad is not divorced, never separated, and he is a con man. Do not give him any money, and please contact us. And whatever you do, destroy this letter. I was like, wow. And so I immediately called his oldest son, and subsequently then contacted his wife. And for about a month and a half, she didn't let on that she knew. I didn't let on that I knew that he was married. And I was actually trying to help her. She was having to live with her parents, and she really had no money, and she never worked. She was always a stay-at-home mom. So we met for lunch, and literally we looked at the text messages, everything. Like, he would be traveling, he'd send her a message. A minute later, he sent me a message. Same thing, like, hey, babe, how you doing? I miss you. I love you, blah, blah, blah. Then she proceeds to tell me, all the things that he was saying, and all the lies he had told me, that, he hated her, that he really couldn't see the kids a lot because he was estranged from them. It was unbelievable. I gave her jewelry that he had given me, because I felt so sorry for her, so she could have some money that she could sell it. I found out later that it was my money that he bought him with. When I finally looked later, and this again, I was so naive, so stupid, and so trusting. But because we had a joint account for the house, and plus he knew all my passwords, my PIN, well, what I didn't know is that he was taking $200 to $400 cash, if not every day, every other day, out of my account. He charged up my credit card to where it went over the limit, 30,000 plus. He was using my money to pay his family's insurance, pay for his trips, pay for his dinners out with other women and victims when he traveled. After he left my house, basically somehow he forged my name. I don't know how he did it, but with Bank of America, our joint account, he ended up taking all the money out. He changed my mailing address to go to his address, which, like, for 2 months, I'm like, why am I only getting like just strange mail, just like trash mail that you get, not like real bills? Until I finally one day I like contacted the post office, and they said, oh, we had a change of address 2 months ago to go to this address, which was his new address. So he was getting all my bills, all my mail. He had broken into my house and took all of my bank records, everything that was important. He created a fake profile on my computer, pretending to be a friend of mine and blasting to all of my friends, and even tried contacting my family, saying that he caught me in bed, that I cheated on him, that he was just devastated. He put me on every cheater site you could imagine. He threatened to kill me. I bought him all these things trying to help his real estate career. I introduced him to all the millionaire friends I have, billionaire friends. He milked every single relationship that I had. He had my utilities, all of them canceled, literally have been harassed. There's hundreds of victims across the globe. I found profiles on his computer eventually that he had been communicating with every type of woman you can imagine and every type of crazy dating site that he was, getting either pictures from or doing videos with or whatever.
Okay, let's
Um,
back up just a second because I want to know, weren't you scared, Kelly?
no, I was angry because I knew every single thing was a lie. And that's literally what lit my fire to start fighting for victims and ready to take on this challenge, which is also why I had a cyber law written into legislation that I've been trying to get some traction on and trying to get approved. He's wicked smart, and that's the thing with these con men is they're very smart. He's very tech savvy, and because he was in that whole mortgage deal, remember when when everything crashed and the mortgage companies that were getting in trouble and being fined and being closed down for illicit practices. Well, he was one of them. So he knew how to alter documents. When I was trying to save my house after he left, I'm in the middle of this half finished house because eventually I had to file bankruptcy. I lost, it was 1.5 million total. I lost my house. It finally had to go to foreclosure. I had to give my Mercedes back. I had to give my Range Rover back. I pretty much lost my business. And if I had not had my family, I would have been homeless. And this is before really anybody knew about the catfishing and cons. I went to 14 attorneys. Not one of them would help me. They all felt sorry for me. But unless I had, a five to $10,000 retainer, they weren't going to do anything. And then I had a couple that just had saw my story and just they saw my picture. And, after I went through my story, basically asked me out on a date. I went to the police. I have 60,000 emails still of all the women that contacted me, including his wife, all the correspondence of me trying to help her and them. And a detective, when I went to her with an inch thick, if not thicker, stack of documents filing my report, she goes, "Honey, what do you want us to do?" She goes, "You're just a jilted lover. There's no crime here." And I'm like, "I'm going to jail today." I know it. That was like the last straw. I said, "It is a crime. It is a felony. It's theft by false pretense." And she just looked at me and I wouldn't leave. I said, "Get a law book." So she went and got a law book and brought it out. And I flipped right to the page. It's under conspiracy, theft by false pretense. I said, "Read it." I go, "This is what he did." And she just looked at me. She goes, "Fine, fill out a report and we'll get back to you." Never heard anything. Contacted, twice the FBI, IC3, filled out both my reports. I still have all the copies of every report I made. I still have never heard from them. I took days off and went and sat at the district attorney's office. Not one of them would even take time to come down to see me. They wanted me to give them all of my information. I said, "Look, this is so convoluted. I just want 5 minutes to explain what all of this is because I'm going to give this to somebody and they're going to scratch their head and they're going to go, this chick is nuts because it sounds nuts." I said, "Just give me 5 minutes with somebody." They wouldn't.
Then Kelly got a call from 2020, and it looked like she was finally going to be able to get someone's attention.
After that aired, that's when the full blown attack started on me. And it lasted almost 10 years. And it's still going today. It's not as bad. But I had been asked to go on Dr. Phil 3 separate times to share my story. And every single time that Dave got a call from them, of course, they want the opposing side. Well, Dave would send them documents. And all of the documents that were sent to them were all falsified. And his claims and everything was a lie. And so then they'd come back to me and I'd have to give them evidence. Well, the last time I said, "Look, I've got 6 women that are willing to come on." And I think I was able to get like 3 that committed. Well, Dave somehow, again, he hacked into my computer, which is how I found out he knew everything I was doing and every move I was making. He threatened every single one of them. None of them at that point, they saw what he'd done to me. None of them wanted to have anything to do with me or the case because they were terrified. And only one time, which was very telling, I did a radio show with my friend Candace Chambers. I never mentioned his name at all. The next day, she got a threatening email from him saying he was going to sue her for slander and then sent her all of this false allegations about me and that I'm a con woman. I said, "I never mentioned his name, did I?" She goes, "Well, no, you didn't. Why would he be contacting you?" First of all, he's obviously following what I'm doing, but he outed himself. How in the hell do you know? During this time, Hollywood Reporter picked it up, all of the news wires, and a lot of colleges and universities, law universities, were looking at this case because it was potentially going to change case law. So they were studying it. Every freaking student ripped me a new asshole. Sorry. But everyone had their opinion of me. And at the end of this, the way the story was written, it looked like I was this, horrible human being, and everyone turned on me. After that, for 2 years, I couldn't even get a job in this town because what everyone does now, they Google you.
Kelly decided she had to take matters into her own hands. She's starting a tech company to help stop this from happening to others in the future. Before we get into that, we're going to go down another rabbit hole. Kelly hired a company to quickly get a website up before her 2020 episode aired. She lost out on money there, too.
The whole thing with that was I never even got to mention my company on 2020, which is what I was going to do, because subsequently at the same time, a supposed friend, who I had given about 50 grand to at least get my site up. Well, he and his wife, who's my friend, they basically hightailed it to Florida with my money, never put my site up. The story, I could go on for days of telling you the ins and outs of so many things that have happened after this and what I have had to deal with and continue to fight. And not having money, it's really the worst part of what happens to these victims, which is why with my tech company that I'm trying to get launched, I also want to not only create a nonprofit that will specifically have attorneys and people that will help victims like myself, pro bono, to fight these guys, these assholes. They will do just about anything and everything, including murder, to keep their lie going.
Reactions started to change to Kelly's story when Dirty John was released, a story of a woman in California who was conned. Her con man ended up dead at the hands of her daughter. The story was made into a television series and one of my favorite podcasts.
I was so glad that came out because so many people then that didn't believe me. I mean, I lost friends over this. I had people that didn't believe me, which broke my heart because, I had a lot of money. And then when I didn't have money, it's like all my friends dispersed. Since then, I've had 6 other victims come forward. One of them, I actually showed up in court the first time I had seen Dave in 8 years. She was trying to file a restraining order. He about had a shit fit. He saw me. He looked up. He immediately ran out, got on the phone. I knew he called his attorney. And finally, his attorney fired him. So it was about almost the 3-year mark, and we were ready to go to court.
Kelly says charges were never filed against her con man, and he actually sued her.
And 7 separate times, Dave wanted to settle. But his stipulation is he would drop the lawsuit if I never talked about him again and never used his name. Sorry, but no, this is my story. It's my company, and I will talk till I'm blue in the face until, sorry, you're either dead or in jail, because that's the only way these guys stop. So the day before his videotape deposition, he contacted my attorney because he had to act in pro per because he didn't have one, and basically wrote a statement stating he withdrew the case. He never had any evidence on me. It was a harassment lawsuit because he was upset at me because I ruined his good name in his town with his Christian fellowship group, and that he had to move out of the town, and that it caused distress within his family. And he's still on dating sites as we speak. I can't tell you how many countless of victims that he has destroyed their lives. And I honestly believe there is one girl, I honestly believe she took her life. A woman contacted me. They had met on a dating site, Plenty of Fish, and it wasn't really a love connection. But again, with Dave, the end goal isn't sex. It's about what he can get. And it's always to get to the next level of deceit or financial or power or something. And this girl was in the perfect sweet spot that he needed to help get funding and to have her do this amazing resume of his and to connect him to her investors for some real estate. And he was supposed to pay her for all the deals. And subsequently, when she contacted me, it was a day before she was supposed to go to bankruptcy court. She was literally in such despair that she had lost almost everything she owned. He hadn't paid her. And then he had gone around her and got to her investors. And then he started throwing her under the bus to get this big investor to not do business with her. So Dave could just go directly to him and cut her out, that she lost all of her business contacts. So I called my attorneys. I said, will you please help her? They're like, absolutely, have her call me. I literally tried for almost 6 months, if not longer, trying to get a hold of this girl. Never got a phone call back, never got a text back, never got a message, never saw one other thing from her. And I honestly believe that I think she took her life.
What was it you did for a living before you had to claim bankruptcy then?
Esthetician. I had my own skincare business for over 20 years.
Okay. And you're still doing that. You're able to kind of come back?
I just recently started again. It was still like really difficult. And it's very difficult in this country to run a business with no credit. And I'd lost a lot of my clients because of what was out there. And I was basically throwing good money after bad. I basically closed my business, and then I started working, trying to get my tech company going, and then was just going to try to freelance or just maybe just get a job, getting an hourly job. But literally for 2 years, I mean, I've sent out hundreds of applications. I couldn't even get a job that I was more than qualified for. I moved in with my mother. I'm actually still here living with my mom, my elder mom. Probably back November, December, I just decided to start my business back up and start at least doing what I can do. Now I'm at the point where where I need the last of the funding to fund my tech company to get it launched. And so I'm, now looking for the investors and really trying to get that going, to get back out there again, to do my news stories, and to start creating awareness about what's still happening daily on not only dating sites, but Facebook, LinkedIn, Tinder, Airbnbs. I mean, the dangers everywhere. And my technology that I've developed, it literally will help us finally know who we're really dealing with, that they are who they say they are.
Tell us how it works and how people can get a hold of you. Let's talk about that a little.
I need to get the last of it funded, but and I have my patent pending right now. But again, it's like I need this funding. But basically, after all the years of being targeted by a sociopath, I've learned every trick of what they do, how they circumvent systems, and there really is nothing out there that truly vets anybody. I don't care if they say they do, they don't. And if they say they have, I've beat it. I've gone to every company that says they do some form of vetting and verification, and it can be broken. There's nothing that's solid whatsoever. So I have not only for online, but also direct to consumer to protect women when they're out, on their cell phone to check somebody. It's basically, we use several different modalities of behavioral biometrics, physical biometrics, and government-backed data. So the 80% of the good people out there that have nothing to hide basically would go to our site and basically verify themselves. It's like the good people saying, hey, look, I have nothing to hide. And if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to hide. It's also a way for us to start taking back control of our identity and basically control of what's out there on the internet, because there's billions of dollars being spent on background checks that are out there. But unfortunately, they're only as good as the person that put them in and as good as the information that was updated. It gives people a false sense of security. Our technology is saying, I'm going to take control. I'm going to do better than you doing a background check. I'm going to do one on myself. And I'm going to go through a 7-step security process that's better than anything out there to prove that, which immediately will weed out the Nigerian scammers, the catfishers, and the people that really don't want to be honest about who they are. They're not going to get through that part. So immediately we're going to weed them out. But let's just say even if somebody might get through that, it's questionable. Okay, well, then they're going to have to go through a full background check. And it's a background check the government uses. NSA, Homeland Security, Secret Service, police force, all that. And it's really only questions that you'd be able to answer or I'd be able to answer. They're not what's your dog's name? What's your favorite color? They're things that are very, very indescript, that some of the questions when they come up for me, because I run myself all the time, I'm like, oh my God, I don't even remember that. Like, who was the first company you financed your car with? Or like, what street did you live on when you were a sophomore? Like, just random questions. But once you get through that, then okay, then we know this person is April. Then On top of that, we're saying, okay, so then to secure that and also to secure your identity, because this is for a digital footprint, we have 4 different modalities of biometrics and you choose 2: fingerprint, voice, facial, or iris. And basically we take then what my patent is, it's basically taking all of that aggregated data that we have and we embed that into a hash that is encrypted on the blockchain. And then that is then embedded into your social profile wherever you go on the internet.
So how much are you needing?
To finish, I need 150,000. Our full raise we're looking for is 3 million. I already have 300,000 myself in it. I still own 100% of the company. And I'm trying to do a lot with sex trafficking, human trafficking, because it's the front line of defense. There's government initiatives that this would solve. Teachers being vetted, children, elder care facilities, banking systems, hospital facilities. This can go so far. Originally this was just going to be the online vertical. Now it's multifaceted and it's every platform. And then we also have our direct to consumer. They don't care, these larger companies. They're never going to do anything to help protect us because that's not their business. They don't care. So it's going to take somebody like this organization, anti-scam, or people like me or people like you exposing it and finally getting the word out. Hey, look, there is something out there. Like I do have a technology. If somebody would just back it or see it, I don't want to force anybody to do anything. We are, America. I don't want the big brother. But people that want to know who they're communicating with, dating with, socially engaging with, whatever, I just want to know that I'm safe and that my family's safe. So just add the API. The people that want to use it, great. The ones that don't. But sooner or later, the good people out there are going to wonder why there's others that don't want to vet themselves.
And how can people contact you then?
They can go to my email, Kelly, my name, Kelley at yours, yoorz.me. I do have like a landing page. So it's just yours, www.yours.me. And it kind of explains the technology and what we're doing and what we want to do. And then I have, victims page myself. It's actually a closed group on Facebook, but I also have my Yours page on Facebook where I post articles and warnings. And then also on LinkedIn, I can be contacted. And that's just Kelly Cahill. Again, laws need to be changed for victims that aren't abused because in the state of California and in the United States, federally and locally, there are no laws that protect anybody like you or me financially. I've contacted victims assistance groups, and unless you have either been a family of a victim that has been murdered or you in fact have been an abused victim yourself, there is financial aid and there are resources. If we've been bullied, if we've been scammed, if we've been harassed, threatened, nothing physical, there's no financial assistance for us. And I think it's just heinous because just like these bullying laws, and I say this all the time, we need them. And it is happening to teenagers. And it is sad that there is a large rate of suicide now. But the stereotypical that it's, just for teenagers, no. If you think about it, there's a law or something to protect everybody from toddler to seniors, except if you fit this really strange area between 30 and 55, there's no protection for you or me. If you're a toddler, it's child abuse. If you're a teen, it's teen abuse. It's bullying. If you're gay, if you are of different ethnicity, there's racism. If you're an animal now, they have lists for dog abusers. It's against the law for dogs. If you abuse a senior, there's protection for them. There's nothing for you or me or any man in between 30 to 55 that protects us from predators on the internet that scam us and that hurt us and ruin our reputations and destroy our lives. There's nothing. And that needs to change.
So that 2020 episode, you won't find it online. Dave filed a lawsuit and the episode was pulled. By the way, according to Kelly, Dave is still with his wife. If you want to contact Kelly and didn't catch her information, I've got it down in the show notes on this episode. If you want to contact me, you can always send me a message on the Scammer Stories Podcast Facebook page or send me an email at scammerstoriespodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, my Scammer Warriors.